There is a certain point in life, as it is in this breaking story, that we become crystal clear that far too often history has a way of repeating itself. And when that comes to free speech and protesting in the United States of America and in this breaking story, and a former president has something really strong to say about it, because we are quickly approaching, if you're old enough to remember, the 55-year anniversary on May 4th, 1970, when the National Guard on a university campus shot and killed 4 students at Kent State. If you don't know it, please feel free to look it up. But that is what this breaking story is based upon, and you have to listen to what just got stated at Donald Trump. I'm going to show you that in a few seconds in terms of what's going on with universities and also one Barack Obama. Take a listen.
Angry and worried, that is what local university students say they're feeling after President Trump threatened to cut off funds from universities that allow what he called illegal protests. The president even warned he'd expel, imprison, and deport student protesters.
In a post on Truth Social this morning, the president wrote, "All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests." He says agitators will be imprisoned or deported, and American students will be permanently expelled or arrested.
Harvard University is today refusing Donald Trump's demand that it change policies amid threats of funding cuts, setting up a new showdown between the Trump administration and the country's wealthiest and most prestigious university. The demands sent to Harvard Friday included things like reporting foreign students who commit conduct violations immediately to federal authorities, bringing in an outside party to ensure that each academic department is viewpoint diverse, restricting the acceptance of any international students who are, quote, hostile to American values and institutions, and the immediate shuttering of all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, including for hiring and admissions.
Yeah, 55 years later, universities being threatened by the president, not the National Guard. I'll take your toys away.
This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country and what values do we stand for? This is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have. And I saw this even before the last election. People tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. It is up to all of us to fix this. Each of us has to examine in our own hearts. We say we're for equality. We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy?
As per typical, Obama's right. This does come down to Sean Connery in the movie The Untouchables when he said to Kevin Costner's character, "What are you prepared to do?" Because that's where we are in this breaking story. Take a listen. Breaking news: Obama slams Trump's ham-handed crackdown on Harvard University. Former President Barack Obama praised Harvard University's decision to resist the Trump administration's conditions for federal funding and encouraged other institutions to do the same. The White House is freezing $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts towards the Ivy League school after it rejected demands to implement a mask ban, make changes to programs and departments that fuel anti-Semitic harassment, and eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. In a statement late Monday, Obama applauded Harvard, where he attended law school, for rejecting the stipulations. In quotes, Harvard has set an example for other higher ed institutions, rejecting an unlawful and ham-handed attempt to stifle academic freedom while taking concrete steps to make sure all students at Harvard can benefit from an environment of intellectual inquiry, rigorous debate, and mutual respect, he said. Let's hope other institutions follow suit. Obama's comments come almost 2 weeks after the former president warned during a sit-down discussion at Hamilton College in New York that Americans may have to, quotes, possibly sacrifice if they want to stick up for democratic values. He encouraged universities and law firms to resist intimidation from the Trump administration. A U.S. Department of Education task force dedicated to rooting out anti-Semitism, however, slammed Harvard's decision, saying it is, in quotes, reinforces the troubling entitlement mindset that is endemic in our nation's most prestigious universities and colleges. Federal investment, the panel said, comes with the, in quotes, responsibility to uphold civil rights laws. Immigration officials announced this week, for instance, that they are screening social media for anti-Semitic activity and the physical harassment of Jewish individuals in order to block immigration benefits. In quotes, there is no room in the United States for the rest of the world's terrorist sympathizers, and we are under no obligation to admit them or let them stay here, said Tricia McLaughlin, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson.
It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person who says, no, that's not right. And now we're at one of those moments where, you know what, you may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit.
I started this story out with a statement about Kent State from 1970. Let me take you back a few years earlier than that to a senator named Joe McCarthy, who started an era of concern and breaching American civil rights called McCarthyism. And back then, it was a fear of communism in which we played this game like Project 2025 and started rooting out people and not giving due process. This is even after the internment camps of Pearl Harbor and World War II, that Joe McCarthy started this communism stuff that came after the Bay of Pigs scandal with Kennedy. And then it was about the fear of communism, and the irony today is that Donald Trump is actually trying to become Vladimir Putin in terms of the way Russia runs its communist country. And that is, you don't get to say anything, you don't get to do anything that we don't approve of. And sometimes we'll use the supposed word of God to keep you in line, or we'll just threaten to take your resources and money away, or we don't give a crap about your due process. We'll just put you in prison or deport you and not care even if we're wrong. This is 55 years later, almost, from Kent State, and this is the very conversation we're having right now. History repeating itself? Yeah. Is it the same? No. That stuff was about fear of someplace else. That stuff was about fear of something from another country. This, now, is coming from our own president about people on our own soil, not the Vietnam War. Stay frosty.